Blog Talk Radio.
Alafia and greetings, Hotep. Welcome to the all-new featured show and series on Oracle Divination Network. You have your Omi Inca live here from Production Studio. I am your host, and I will be talking with you today. So how is the African family, and how are the children? I hope you're fair to Midland. And we're going to continue on with part 2 of what does the disfellowship individual do after leaving their congregation. What does the disfellowship individual do? How can we help this particular person? And what should be in store? Part 2, where does the Jehovah Witness go after they have been disfellowshipped? We're going to continue on with this series. It is a hot topic, and it is definitely necessary to be discussed. It has something to do with families, and we are talking about our hero system, home economic related organizations, okay? And this fits right into the family category. We have to discuss what's on the table for the family. A number of us are a little bit afraid of talking about things that go on in the family, but we have to discuss what matters to the family. Can we talk here, family? Can we get together and talk here about what is going on? So many of our people have had a difficult time. I'm going to change up here and see if I can get a better perception. There we go. Okay, I hope everyone can hear me out there in TV land. This is a technical jargon here that I'm going through, and sometimes I am featuring on 2 shares, and on Blog Talk, and that is also, let's see, I don't know what's going on now. We got a little problem here. They're reconnecting, trying to reconnect. We're going to stay on here, so stay in your positions. Do not move, because sometimes they try to alter things around here, but we're not moving. We're going to be like a river by the tree. We shall not be moved. And once again, I want to say that we are broadcasting live here, and to all of my fans out there, my followers on Facebook, stay faithful, okay? And be like a tree by the water and stay faithful. Right now, they're trying to shut down our Facebook, and that's why I stopped fooling with Facebook for a while, because there was always some type of disconnection problem. However, we do have our faithful Blog Talk, and they're trying to say they can't connect. Nothing went wrong. They be discussing this hot topic, so they decided to make sure that I could not come on to discuss this hot topic. We're coming right back in, and we are going to be coming strong. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you know that they do this to get you to scatter, because they don't want as many viewing this show. They don't want it. And then they'll try to do something really, really crazy. Back myself back in here. Okay, stay tuned. We are not off the air yet. We are not off the air yet, and we are going to get back into this situation here. So how's everybody doing? We're still tuned in to our Blog Talk, and I must honor my Blog Talk friends. They've been following me for over 10 years. I do appreciate it, and we want to go to commercial, and we will bring you right back into the setting. And don't deter. We are not going off the air. Hold tight, Blog Talk. And we're back on the air with our Blog Talk. And our Blog Talk radio station, Oracle Divination Network, is a directory. And you can go and sign up with your profile if you are priest, priestesses, Babalaw, a Petidi, or an Yalafai, and you want someone to know that you are a practicing practitioner in the priesthood, you can sign up on this website so that we could give your information out. And we're going to be true to form. We're a paranormal organization. We deal with the paranormal. We deal with occults, and that's why we're going to be talking to you about occults and the fact that the Jehovah Witness organization falls in that category. All churches are cults, and believe it or not, Jehovah Witness is not alone in this game. All churches are considered as a cult. So if you are a member of any church, you are a member of occultic practices. And because we report on paranormal and occultic and fetish things, we will be talking about these things until the cows come home. It is necessary. So what necessitates a cult? One would probably think someone that is pitted together under certain regulation, guidelines, where they all have to be a cookie cutter, mimeograph, and duplicated template where they act out in a certain manner and no one can deviate from those practices because you have the occultic practices that are put and cast in claim. Now, let me read you something to let you know that when you go into the church the first thing you ask them are, what are your practices? What are your universal practices? What kind of commandments do you have? What do we have to live by? Now, this is from a spiritual perspective, and I would think that you would adhere to these. You might even want to adapt these particular belief systems. And even though you don't have a church home, you may want to have a set of belief systems. And that's what makes up a church. You can go right in your bedroom or in your spare room in your den and set up your own church and get your bylaws put together. Most of these Jehovah's Witnesses don't realize if they found something wrong in the denomination that they had been practicing in for many years, they can transition out of that to home. So what are you going to do in the home? You must set up some bylaws, and you must set up a set of doctrinal laws that you live by. You have a church in your home, and you can say, this is the church according to Omi. This is the church according to Roderick. This is the church according to Barbara Ann. This is a church according to Andrew. This is a church according to Mafami. This is a church according to Malik. This is a church according to Andrean. Yes, you can formalize your own church in your home. Don't despair, witnesses. You are not all gone, and you're not lost, and you're not all washed up. If you found some deficit in their doctoral teaching or in their philosophy that you did not adhere to and you know better, there's another set of doctrines that you can adhere to, then write those doctrines out. Maybe even adhere to the ones that I'm going to read off today. But formalize you a set of doctrines of do believe in. Formalize that, because some people have a problem. They have ability to quote what the problem is, but they never come up with a solution. Today we want to give you some solutions so you don't go trampling out of one church into another with the same set of doctrines that you left from the previous church. Sit down, go to your computer, and start looking up what necessitates doctrine. How do you put your doctrines together? What is it that you really do believe in? And how do you want to portray those doctrines to the world? And do you want to indoctrinate yourself as a where other family members who've been discommunicated, who are wounded, need to come to? If you have a large family and you have a large amount of people that's been discommunicated and they're just floundering around out there, just lost and talking to one another, saying, well, I've been discommunicated and I don't know what I was going to do. I've been in that church all my life. My pappy was there, my mammy was there, and now I don't have a church home for my children. I don't want to be emphasized. I want to be connected. Then you take those family members and say, come on with me. Come on with me, Suzanne. You ain't lost. Straighten yourself up. Lift up your back. Get up. You saw some faults in that church, and you were right for seeing those, because I saw them too. And I'm on your side. So you didn't speak to me when I was disfellowshipped. You didn't come to my house when I invited you. You didn't even come to my child's christening. You didn't even come to our wedding. But nevertheless, I haven't forgotten about you. You are cast aside. But you don't have to be like that. We don't want you to go into depression. We don't want you to even consider doing away with yourself. We want to captain you and help you now. That's why I want to tell you, you only have to set up your own doctrines of what you believe. What is it that you believe anyway? Come up with a set of doctrines, and let's get back together so we can talk about them, and then we can help figure out how to do our church here at home. You mean we can really do our own church at home? Yes. How do you think all those other churches started? They may have started from their home or a YMCA, or they may have rented a building from another church, but they had their own doctrine, and that's why they parted. Many of churches part. I was in a church once that didn't believe the same thing as this group over here and that group over there, so we started our own very own church. We were frustrated and disgusted. It wasn't the witnesses. It was one of the other denominations, which I won't call out right now, but we did split up from church with 13 of us right from our home. I'm one of the 13 founders for Christian Tabernacle, one of the first churches that was set up over in the near north suburbs of Illinois, right there with Walter Payton and his wife assisting us. We decided that we were fed up, so we went and started our own church, and we started it from our home. And then we moved to the YMCA. Then we moved to the Lutheran church until we had enough funds to be able to put down on our own building. We were fed up. We were tired of that nonsense and things that were being preached that was not biblical. And we wanted a non-denominational church. We didn't want any denomination. Going from the basis of truth. And with that church, we set up. We brought people in from around the near north suburbs, and it was Christian Tabernacle Church right there in the northwest suburbs. That church is still standing now. We knew the benefit of setting up doctrine. Let me give you some samples of belief systems and doctrine. You don't have to adhere to them, but let me give you an example of what some of them might be for a spiritualist church. Now, I only believe in you doctrine because you could get carried away into other folks' doctrine, and they're not your own, and now you're expected to carry out these doctrines, and you don't believe in them. I believe in spirituality is lasting. Anything else is temporal. Spirituality will be on the books from here until the cows come home because it is not a part of religion. So what I'm about to read to you is not a part of religion. It's a spiritual doctrine, something you can live by without putting a denomination on it. So this is a non-denominational philosophy. And I don't have my glasses on, but I hope I can still see them. What we believe. I'm going to have to probably come over here and bring this light over to me. What we believe. We believe that God is spirit, that our bodies are matter and dwelling place for God. Do we understand that? That God dwells within us, and our body is only matter, and God sits in the being of our matter. We believe that man is spirit just like God. Did you understand that? That we are just like God. That's why we can call ourselves God. We are spirit, and God is spirit. We believe is the name given by God to his creative man. We believe our real selves are God, spirit, matter, body. Do you understand that this body that we're in is just the outward covering, but the real man is the soul and the spirit? We believe that all life is God. We believe that every 2,100 years completes an age. We believe that Adam was the leader of the earth age. We believe, now let me also say that Adam was not the first man. He was not the first man. It was when the Caucasian came up on the scene and prior to Adam. We believe there is no life except God. We believe that he has made his second appearance within Hurley. Hurley is a black man that they have made as a god. We believe that whatsoever is good we need is within all of us, is all the time. We believe that when we have realized Christ, we can draw all good from within us. All good comes from within. How many times have you been taught that there's no earthly good thing within you and that you're desperately wicked, and who could know your heart? We are good, inherently good. We believe when we have realized Christ, we can draw all good from within us, as I said. We believe that Christ is the wisdom and the power of God. We believe that all who will accept his teaching, the Christ will accept them. Now, that does not mean that Christ is an individual. That is a concept and a title, a practice of how you behave, a behavior. We believe in ages, times of error. We believe that Abraham was the leader of the Aryan age. Now, does that mean that Abraham existed? He was a part of the Aryan age, the fire age. We believe that Jesus was the leader of the Piscean age, the water age. The age of the Pisces was when Jesus was in existence, his concepts. We believe that Hurley is the leader of the Aquarian age, and Hurley is a black man, which I will give you a little bit more information later. That Hurley was born at the proper time to be the leader. We believe that he will bring heaven to all nations. We believe in mental telepathy and thought force. Do you know what mental telepathy is? The ability to send a message and mental telepathy that you and I both have the power of performing. Okay. We believe that the spirits and to think of a thing is the prophecy in its fulfillment. We believe that all men are equal, regardless of their color. All men. We believe that spiritual faith is the only true mode of worship. Spiritual faith is the only true mode of worship. We believe that all Protestants must accept the true faith. It will fall. We believe in doing unto others as we would have them to do unto us. We believe heaven is supreme state of mind here on earth. Heaven is here on earth. Don't look for it out in the atmosphere. We believe that hell is a deplorable condition in the body of human beings. Hell could be anywhere here on earth. It is not somewhere under the ground. Now, that is what a standard belief system could look like. And the universal Hagar spiritual Ten Commandments. Harley Hagar is the one that they've been referencing to. A black man, may I repeat. Thou shalt believe in spirit, God within matter. Number 2, thou shalt ignore a sky heaven for happiness and a downward hell for human punishment. Did you understand that? An upward heaven and a downward hell for punishment. There is no hell and there is no heaven. You make it wherever you are. Okay? Believe in heaven and hell. Thou shalt believe in heaven and hell here on this earth. That's where you make your heaven and hell. It is a frame of mind. Thou shalt believe in the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Thou shalt believe in what you know, then what you sow you shall reap. Thou shalt believe that the Ethiopians and all nations will rule the world with righteousness. You know who the Ethiopians are? That's us. thou shalt believe. So Hagar's spiritual church was revealed to Father G. Double Hargley for the blessings of all nations that will believe. Thou shalt not pray for God to enemies. Did you hear that? You are not to pray for God to bless your enemies. Thou shalt ask God to give you power, overcome your enemies. Thou shalt believe that our relatives and friends whose spirits have departed from their bodies are within our own bodies. Do you understand that? Your ancestors exist within you. That you pray to your, they are all constantly backed up in your being. They're within you. They've never left you. So all that they know and all that they can aspire to know is already in you. That is push them forward and call their names. Let me repeat that. Thou shalt believe that our relatives and friends whose spirits have departed from their bodies are within you and I, are within our own bodies to help us overcome all difficulties in life. So you are not to be praying to any being out there in the sky or beneath the ground. You are to be praying to yourself, where your ancestors reside. They are all congregated within inside of you. So if you are going to bow down to anything, bow down to your ancestors that reside within you. All of them, every one of them. There are some here. So you cannot go and find a God in the sky that's going to adhere to anything you're making a request for, and you cannot see that there is a hell below you, because the fire would burn so bright that you would not be able to stand on the sidewalk. So therefore, we must get out of our mind that there is a heaven or hell above us or below us. We must create our heaven and hell in a frame of mind. And you create your own hell and your heaven. Now, those are a set of doctrines that I adhere to. I received these doctrines when I was just a little girl. I had no knowledge that I was going to a spiritual church. And when I went back home to visit, I went to visit that church, and they remembered me from a little girl. And they wanted to make sure I had these doctrines, something to live by. No matter how far away I got from God, I could always remember the doctrines I hid in my heart. And we hide the word in our hearts so that we don't sin against God. And I want you to know there's many gods, and God is a jealous God, because there are many gods that you could be serving. You can be serving the God of money. You can be serving the God of religion. But God don't want you to serve religion. He wants you to be spiritualist. Now, that's why he's knocking some people out in the ballpark field. And that's why you see so much destruction happening with these occultic churches who are practicing these occultic processes. You're seeing them falling apart because they don't have any standard that they're lifting up. They are making it up as they go along. Spirit doesn't change. Spirit is consistent. I don't care where I go to get knowledge. I will always have these doctrines in my heart. I don't care if I'm practicing Yoruba, Ifa's Yoruba practice are geared towards these doctrines because they believe in spirit first of all. And once you believe in spirit, I don't care what church you go to, you cannot be indoctrinated. You're already indoctrinated with spirit. The problem that the Jehovah Witness had was they had no indoctrination of spirit. They had indoctrinations of other churches, but no indoctrination of spirit. Once you're indoctrinated by spirit, it does not waver. It does not change. It does not flip up and flip down. You're consistent with knowing that your ancestors and God exist on the inside of you. Then there's nothing anybody can tell you about the other religion because they are just perpetrators. And the real faith is in spirit. So know that you can carry the Spirit within you without signing up for any membership anywhere. These are God-given spiritual rights that you don't have to join anybody's establishment or join on with any type of church. And where we're going wrong is that we're investing in these churches and gravitating to these churches and giving our 10%, thinking we're making an investment and a down payment in heaven. When you can do that in your own family room, you can do that by vowing these particular 10 commandments or having your doctoral teachings that you plant in your heart, in your home, and teaching them to your children. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses do have a place they could go. They can go home. And I suggest they go home and spend some time pressing their ancestors forward, hiding their ancestors in their heart, calling on their deities of their ancestors to come and to sup with them and to tell them who they should be worshiping. Because it's certainly not the God up there in the sky, because there is no God in the sky. You create your God within your heart, within your own being. Your ancestors become your God. That is who you commune with. You don't worship ancestors. You commune with them. Now, what about the God that created heaven and earth? Well, I want to tell you, there are many gods. Which one are you talking about? The one that created the outer court of heaven? The one that created the inner court of heaven? Akamare? How many of you know who Akamare is? How many of you have even heard the term Akamare? Akamare. See that? Akamare, and it's spelled Akamara. That is the God of the universe. This is an emblem of what it looks like. And then within that God, there's a triume of 3 different levels of God's head. But only Akamare is the one that created the heavens and the earth and the firmament and laid down this earth and all the beautiful things you see and the animals. That is Akamare. That is the name for God, the creator God. But I want to let you in on a little secret. He has 3 helpers that work with him, that do other things, and they're not the creator of heaven and earth. He's got Olorun, who is spelled Olorun. Olorun is combustible fire. He is just like fire shut up in your bones, electrifying fire that runs across the airways like electricity. You cannot embrace this God. You cannot go to this God for anything. He is the God of the outer courts of heaven who works with Akamare. Okay? He has split himself up into 3 other characters that do 3 different types of responsibilities. Then you have Elede. Elede is also ratified fire. Elede is electrifying fire, and he's the inner court of heaven. You cannot call on Elede for anything. He will burn you up like fire. He has no concerns of the issues of man. Then you have Olodumare. You've heard me mention Olodumare. Olodumare. Olodumare is also ratified energy, but he's clothed in matter so that he can embrace you, so that he can come to you and assist you and aid you. And he is embraceable. He's not the fire that will burn you up, but he could if he wanted to. But he created something called Ori, and he gave you Ori to set on your head. That is your consciousness. That is who you consult when you're in trouble. That is who you ask for direction, Ori. And if you have any good success, you must give it to Ori, because it's your head that has gotten you there, Ori. Ori is in all of us. And Ori is who we pray to. When we pray to ourselves, we're talking to Ori. These are the things that you don't need church to have. These are things that will abide with you forever and ever. Amen. And you don't need church to be able to conjure these things. These are the things that we were given. Through understanding who Akamare was, he gave us Ori, a God that will never leave us nor forsaken us, that will be with us always. So for you witnesses who have been looking for God, find God within yourself. And all of you out there today, Malik, Larson, who else is here? Mafandi, Blair, Barbara, Rodriguez, who is this? Who else is out here? Okay, Jennifer, Clifford, Van, Minister, Boner, Wendy. You can find God within the hidden aspect of your being, and that is where Ori will sit. That is your God, your personal God. That is the one you cry to. That is the one you consult. That is the one you go to for guidance. He's giving you your very own personal God. Now, had the witnesses knew this, they wouldn't have been looking out in the sky for some other God. And some of you other church-going, thumping, Bible-thumping people would have known. That's why I had to get out of the church, because God couldn't be found in any church. He cannot be contained in a book, and you cannot find him in any biblio. That Bible is just a biblio. It is not a guide or a manual for your life. You have to set a set of doctrines for your life, and you have to understand that man comes here wired with everything he needs, everything that you need to correspond with God. You were supposed to press God forward. God was supposed to show up in your life whenever you was at a crisis, and the more crisis you had, the more you pressed that person, he, she, him, or it. You pressed it forward because of your circumstances and what you were going through. Some of us have been through more circumstances, so God has showed up more in our life. We're more of a believer because of the circumstances we've been through. But if you haven't been through anything, I am willing to bet you have not pushed your Godhead forward, because you haven't been through anything, and it wasn't necessary for you to push up against the prick. Now that you've been through something, sometimes a witness have to go through a devastating shock like that in order to find God. Then they will push harder, and God will show up. And he will then tell you you have your very own personal God, who is Ori. Now commune with Ori, sit with Ori, meditate on Ori, and let Ori guide you, and lean not on your own understanding, but lean up on Ori, and he will direct your path. And I'm sure you read that somewhere in the biblical book. Now, these are your three beings that you are to look to: Orumala, Olarum, Eleda, and Olodumare. And these are the gods that existed before time. These are the three attributes of Akamare. Don't forget the name of Akamare. And someone that will ask you, are you a monotheistic or polytheistic person? You tell them you are both, because you believe in Akamare, who is the God of the universe. You believe in Eleda, Olarum, and Olodumare. And these are the African gods that existed before time. So once you hide them in your heart, you need not look into a brick and mortar church for God. He cannot be contained there. He's contained within your being. So you are the living episcopal. You are the church. So why are you in these churches when you are the living episcopal? You are the living episcopal. And if you bow down to your knees and call on Ori, you go to church each time. So why are you confusing yourself by going to these brick and mortar buildings and getting beat up by someone who wants to enslave you? and someone who wants to control you. You should not be enslaved or controlled anymore, even if you're not a witness who has been disfellowshipped. You might be a lost Christian, like I was, stumbling through the dark, not being able to find my way, staying in this religion just because I had become an evangelist and went through theological training. I felt it was necessary for me to stay there until I find what God wanted me to do. Well, God wanted me to do nothing there that I couldn't do while in the presence of my own community. There was nothing I can do in that church because those men of faith were not going to let you tell the congregation about how to find God, because they wanted you to think they were God and you were to worship them. Now, in a minute, you're going to see a whole lot of churches turn out people who are fed up and who have come to their senses, and God has showed up in their life, and they found God in the quietness of their own heart. And Ori spoke to them for the very first time. I taught you about Ori, Ilede, Olurum, and Akamare, so you know who the God is. Akamare and Oladulamare and Olurum, and Ori is your personal God. Don't forget those things, because you'll need those things when you decide to exit and to take yourself out of your various different churches. But for those who are being discommunicated, let not your heart be troubled. Lean on God, and He will direct your path, because it was probably overdue time that you were supposed to disfellowship yourself. So a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are out there lingering, trying to seek and find which is the perfect religion. There is no perfect religion, and there is no one religion for African Americans. There is no one other than the fellowship you find within your being with God. And you have to know that, because if you don't, you're going to get entangled with these churches, and they're going to hurt you every time. They're there for the government and to serve the government and to keep their 501c. They're not going to lose their 501c because you can't get things in order. They will disfellowship you if they think you're a problem and you're intervening against their money, and they're not going to let you intervene with their money. So I'm speaking to somebody right now who has a family member that wants to get out of the Jehovah's Witness, or that is in the process of transitioning out. There's a lot of hurt that is transferred over into the family from one or two people being in these occultic faiths. Sometimes they go too far with donating money, where they take money out of the household, and your household suffers. And sometimes they follow after these people who are crooked and no good, and then when they're found out in the media to be a child molester or someone who has been engaged in an extramarital affair, then you're all shocked. How could you be? These people are not saints. They're human just like you, and they're bound to fail somewhere in life. But nevertheless, why would you entrust your faith to someone and entrust somebody? The Bible says don't entrust your faith to the legs of a man, because a man will fail you. But yet we place so much faith in our apostles and our ministers, and we put this faith in them, and we realize we have put them up on a pedestal to be God. But we have to understand that we're God. We have to pay homage to ourselves. And the way we get to know God is through studying ourselves, sitting with ourselves and studying ourselves. Now, I didn't come about this information overnight, and neither did I learn all this information in anybody's establishment and congregation. And I sure didn't learn it all in Ifa. Ifa is basically a way of life. It is a way of life, but it did teach me that there was no devil. And once I got that out of my mind,
I was able to decipher things because I was running with this scared belief that the devil was going to get us and that we were going to be plagued by the devil all the time. When I realized that the id and the ego inside of me fighting with myself, and that there was no devil on the outside trying to get flesh that is weak that was fighting with the spirit. So you have an internalized fight with your flesh and your spirit at all times. Who will win? Your flesh always wants to overrule the spirit and do things, because your flesh cannot be controlled except for when you are fully in the spirit. And that's why I was teaching you about becoming spiritualist, because when you're in the spirit, you're going to live by the spirit, and you are going to uphold yourself under those spiritual obligations. And you don't need a church home. You've got your doctrines there within you, a caustic record. And that's why at one time people said that the Bibles were created for the Caucasian. It was not created for the African. Who were inherently good. And we had the caustic records on our being to tell us how to behave. And we adhere to those caustic records. Now everybody is going to the outside looking for a solution for a problem that can only be found on the inside. So I've got to teach you to meditate and go on the inside of yourself to find the real solution about how you are to carry it. It's imprinted within you. And there's no amount of information that you can adhere to on the outside that's going to solve your problem, except when you go in yourself and meditate. So we've got these witnesses running around now, trying to find out who they are. Now, this African brochure was given to me, and I was fortunate enough to get this African brochure to find out about Orumila. Orumila, the actual stolen person called Jesus. Really, Orumila is Jesus. Jesus stole that concept and became a right-hand man, but they don't say anything about Jesus creating man and sculpturing man. But Orumila was the one who sculptured us and created us. And then he called God in and said, God, don't you want to give the breath of life? And God gave the breath of life, and he brought his name Emi. Emi is that rattling sound of death. So when he gets ready to take his breath away, he implants Emi there to the rattling sound when he snatches the breath of life out of your being. So God gave us the breath of life, you say. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It was Orumila, the master sculptor, that they talked about and you hear about, but you never realize that he is the sample of Jesus that was God's right-hand man. You can read about Orumila and know that he's a person, or still is, because he is a deity. You must understand who your African deities are, and you must give homage to them and seek them out, and you must light a candle to them at your altar, because those are the people that help you remember that it's your ancestors that you bow down to and that you commune with, not worship, but it's your ancestors that you call their name one by one, and they're the sum total of why you're here, and they are the Godhead that works on the inside of you to help you to cooperatively work together. But those witnesses who have been deployed, who have been disfellowshipped, have because they have to only go and sit with themselves, not going to join another church, but to sit with themselves and meditate and press God forward. And then God will show up within their being, and then they will see, or we who will come to them and assist them and aid them and be a foe to work with them. But we have serious, serious problems about building. We always are talking about, well, when are we going to get our church? And is us going to get a building? And we don't understand. That's the worst thing that we can ask for, because then we sit quietly on those benches and thinking that our work is done, when really the work is on the outside, out in the vineyard. And there is no church that can contain God. And that is where we're making a mistake. And that's why God is tearing these churches down one by one, and he's expelling these people from the church. Because we have made the church God. And it cannot be, because we're the living epistles. God. God walks with us and talks with us. The more we spend time with God, the more a radiantly glow comes about us to let you time with God. Why not spend some time with God when you go into yourself and meditate while sitting at your altar, pouring your 7 glasses of water, making sure that you burn your incense and sage your altar, calling on your ancestors, especially the ones that are recently dead. Make sure you make contact with them and put their names on the altar. Now, this is your worship, and this is where you start at. You don't go back into a church where someone can hurt you again, because you're going to have to come out of these churches and occultic practices, because that's what they are. Anytime a man gives you a quota of how many people's doors you got to knock on, having you out in the wee hours of the night, doors, trying to tell somebody about a lie, because it's certainly not the good news. And then, not only that, they have to sell so many watch towers. These witnesses are exhausted. They are just tired. And they claim they're doing this for the Lord. No, they're not doing it for the Lord. It is a man-made concept. And sooner you realize that when you come to your senses, the better. But nevertheless, where does the witness go after they've been disfellowshipped? You certainly don't go to another witness to ask, can you take me back? You certainly don't go to another church, which is also a part of an occultic practice. You certainly don't go to the preacher and the elders and ask them to accept you back. It's a form of pride when you do that. If you've been disfellowshipped and it was for a good reason, then stay out and look towards bettering yourself and bettering your life and getting a closer walk with God. And the only way you're going to get a closer walk with God, you have to spend time with yourself. So you need to go on sabbatical to spend time with yourself, to meditate, and to go into deep meditation where you at the subconscious level, and God can speak to you through all of your circumstances. And God is never going to be found in any dwelling of a temple. He will always be found in it. So if you have God in your heart, then it should be shining. You should have signs and wonders following you. And when there's this glow about yourself, people know you've spent time with God, talking to God, getting to know the mind of God. And then you become God yourself. Your third eye, going from the reptilian stage of the animalistic stage, where you're breaking down the animalistic stage, to traveling up your chakras to your third eye, where you're spiritual. And that is when you awaken. And that is your full church there. You won't find it outside of yourself. But it's very vital that we get with our who've been disfellowshipped and help them before they stumble over into something called suicide. Because truly, that is what they're finding. Many of them are disgusted in themselves. They feel lost. They feel broken. They feel dissatisfied. And then they become depressed. And that depression leads them into a potential suicide. This is a serious, serious matter. And when I found out that most of the witnesses are on suicidal watch, so that means that they're watching them any time that any one of them that is disgruntled or dishappy or disfellowship can be a prospect for committing suicide. Can you imagine your loved ones joining this organization to only find out that they couldn't measure up? No, you can't measure up to these man-made laws because they're treating you like a slave. And eventually you are going to want to challenge their teaching. And when you challenge their teaching, you're up against the whole institution. Can you imagine somebody that has little knowledge in church formality and they get caught up? You can't talk to them. They have shut you down, and yet they still keep going after meeting these goals, knowing they can't. And you see them out in public with their witness friends, and their witness friends are speaking for them, thinking for them, and they have no choice in the matter. Then you have to go and get those lost sheep. You have to go and help them. You have to go and speak into their life, and you have to go witness to them. Sometimes this thing that's called witness, it turns out that they have to be witnessed too. But I'm not just talking about the witnesses. There are a number of us that are out here in these congregations where we've given our lives to these churches. I was cooking church dinners and chicken dinners and running here and traveling with this crew and traveling with that. It was an exhausting over the time that I spent as an evangelist in the church. And believe you me, that didn't also count for me having to travel to speak and to be a keynote speaker. It was over exhausting. And I know God don't need you to do all that. Some of that is just excess man-made stuff. And truly, the best thing that I thought that our people needed, and we do need something, we do need a haven where we can go, a support group. And here's a young lady, an actual Catholic young lady who was exhausted of church and wanted to leave the church, and she did, and she got out. And I don't know if you know the story about Bethany in the Bible. That is where Mary's home was, Bethany, the city of Bethany. And supposedly Mary and Jesus went there after a ceremony, and they went there for sabbatical of the place. So they went there, and it was called Bethany. The young lady that I'm talking to you about, she created the Bethany Retreat House, and it is a project where anyone can create a Bethany Retreat House, and they can purchase a home or get someone to donate a home, and they fix it up for people to retreat to, who have been physically, mentally, and spiritually drained, and who need to go and build up this a bed and breakfast place where you can go and have your sabbatical. Now, this is something that one could consider setting up, who comes out of the witness, a Bethany Retreat House, a retreat facility for those who are wounded, who are transitioning out of the Jehovah Witness occultic practices. And this could be a place where all sorts of resources are available to them to help them get their mind back together so they can start. It's a self-serving place where they can go and begin to receive sabbatical and receive a healing treatment. And I thought I'd show you that because that's an option that the Jehovah Witnesses have, is to go and to gather up amongst their own all these other wounded Jehovah Witnesses and talk about a retreat house. How do we establish a retreat house to assist these people who have to go now that they've been disfellowshipped? A lot of people feel wounded and they feel like they want to go somewhere, so they meet up together and they have meet-up groups where they talk about what has happened to them. But it's not necessary to talk about their experiences. All their experiences are primarily the same. But what is important to do is go forward with your life and find out what God wants to use you for. And if nothing else, it could be to rehabilitate these wounded, disfellowshipped individuals. And I still am on the battlefield for my sister who thought that this organization was okay, and because she's elderly and up in age, it was easy for someone to try to get her to believe in this faith. And I said, why would you believe in this faith when you've always taught us about spirituality? And she says, well, I know, but that is my daughter-in-law who wants me to go to the church with her. Now, some family members can press these elderly people to become witnesses and tell them they need to be baptized in the faith and come on and be their guests and that kind of thing. We have to watch out for that, and we have to always make sure we're an advocate to make sure that that person is not bullied into becoming a witness or forced into getting baptized. So it is a whole tactic that we must take because our people, for some reason, they go after the black people and they get entangled in this thing called church. We are such a gullible individual for something called church. When we mention church, we think of God. God is not always in the church, and you have to remember that. You have to remember you planted God in your heart, and that is where you can register God and go and find him whenever you need him. But nevertheless, we are going through a battle, and there are more of us African Americans that are in the witness area, and we need help. We need resources. We need to know that we have to create workshops, support groups, and seminars. And when I went through my divorce, I was able to contact a workshop support group for the lilac tree. They were very instrumental in assisting me and aiding me in knowing what to do as a divorcee. And they were also helpful in pointing me to the marriage support groups for those of us who wanted to reunify with our significant other. So you have to have these support groups. And I actually went and took the training in this particular Strengthening Family Ties course. So now I'm licensed to teach their class for marriage and family therapy. And this actually helps us to strengthen our bond in our marriages. So it's a support group. And if we've got support groups and workshops, symposiums for divorcees of women, then we should have something for retreats for ailing individuals who are exiting out of these occultic practices. And that's what I wanted to say, that it's easy to just talk about them and tell people what is going on, but what are the solutions that we have created? What are some options we've given people? Because we must give them an alternative, because some of these people have been born into these cultic practices, and they don't know how to get out. They don't know which door to go out of. No, young man, don't go out that back door. Go out that front door, the same door you came in. They don't know how to get out. They don't know how to fade out and make themselves jaded from the establishment without getting bullied. And I want to say this, because some of them will get bullied. They will come to your house 4 days in the morning knocking. The witnesses, we're here to tell you about the kingdom of Jehovah. Have you been baptized? You come to the door and you say, look, I've been disfellowshipped. And watch how they scatter, because they don't want nothing to do with a disfellowshipped individual. Or they'll come to your door and they'll plant things on your doorstep. And you come out there and you know the Holy Spirit has told you, the witnesses that are here. Look at here. What is this stuff they've laid down on me? They're into witchcraft. They've laid some witchcraft down. You got to keep your candles burning, because if they after you and they think you're impeding somebody in the family from becoming a witness, or they think you have brought somebody else into another denomination that they want in the witness, they'll come after you. And these are occultic practices, but they exist. And you got some of those individuals that will come up and tell you, I can't talk to you. You ain't no witness. You ain't been baptized. You know I can't say nothing to you. They told us to keep away from the family that's been disfellowshipped. And you can't come to my house. You just look them straight in the face and say, look, I'm not trying to come to your house, and I don't want you to even come to mine. I want to pray for you that you will exit out of that occultic practice. I'm praying for you, girl. I'm praying for you, girl. I'll keep you on my prayer list. I'll put your name on the altar. You have to let them know you praying for them too. That they caught up into a situation called slavery. They're nothing but slave individuals to this organization. But nevertheless, we've got to find alternatives to what we can do as solutions. What are our options and solutions? First of all, I want you to know that you're all spiritual and we're all level at the cross. There's nobody in here that's more of a priestess than the other. We got young people out there that are trying to outpoke the Pope with their card reading and their oracle reading. It takes more than just an oracle reader. And I sincerely mean that, because it has taken me over 40 years, and I'm still a student of the priesthood, still learning how to become a priest. What are the necessary things that I must learn in order to become a healer? Because we are practitioners. We are not witches. Please get that thoroughly to your head. So many people are ignorant and confused, and they want to call priestess witches. No, that's for the wickery, and that is not of our descendants. We are not witches. We belong in Yahweh's eyes. I'm one that governs over all of the practicing priestess to give them like a mother. And then you have the Epetibes who are married to the Bible laws, and they are also worshipers who go through the actual devotee, become a devotee of God, and then they also go through becoming to perfect their gifts, their ability to be seers, their ability to be able to look into the lives of others and to use their skills to be able to see into the lives of others. So we are trained in depth, with in-depth spirituality. And nevertheless, we've got a lot of people out here, once they get a little bit of training, they're now putting a sign up or a shingle saying, hey, I am a reader. Are you a practitioner? And have you been trained? And who initiated you? Those are questions that you need to ask. Don't just put your hands in the hands of anyone, not even me, unless you ask, who initiated you? Who initiated you on me? And who is the one that gave you the direction for healing? What methodologies do you use? There's so many people that are opening up these portals, and they're leaving them open. They're leaving the gate open, and the gate is sending out all kind of zoo animals on them. And they have not closed up these portals, because once you do an actual oracle reading, you must also understand that the Creator inhabits a sacrifice. And do you know what to do for a sacrifice? And is He happy and accepting your sacrifice? And have you thrown OB to get an answer on your sacrifice? You got people doing readings that they have not even closed the portal and got an answer on the sacrifice. So it's very dangerous out here for a number of people to be practicing in these categories called being a witch, because they don't want to make the mistake of telling somebody they're a witch, and then they meet a warlock, and they find out they're not the real deal. But you'll know when people are the real deal. They're quick. They're slow to make any decision and to cast any lot on anyone. And I say, for the record, you can teach people how to cast lot on themselves and to throw OB and to do eating and ekings, and you can teach them how to write the 256 Odu, but do not sit there and be a patsy for them and allow them to ring you up at any time of the night and ask you to do a reading, because at that point you are understanding that you got people that are abusing the situation. You can teach them how to use these methods on their own lives and other family members, but it's not a good idea to be out here in the field reading everyone. The Bible laws are responsible for that. They are trained to be able to do nothing but that. And you don't have the time in your schedule to leave your doors open at all times for somebody to come in and get a reading. That is an all-consuming practice. So I said that to say that we are not just coming into faith, but we're coming into practitioners. All of us are evangelists, and we've all been called to be a practitioner. And all of you should consider yourself as a practitioner. You are all priestess and priests, and you should all be practicing the skills over yourself, especially to gird up and protect yourself, and then turn to your family and loved ones. Don't use this practice to be able to gain a dollar here and there. It is not a practice that you can get rich off of, and you certainly don't want to be a nickel and dime person where you can just go to people because you think they have money. So now you are going to be their reader and their all-time reader where you can get money out of them, and you're going to the bank saying cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That practice has to stop, and black people have to wake up to that. You are not dealing with a plaything. The spirit is real, and the spirit will come back to vex you, and you don't want that hanging over your head. Now, once again, getting back to how do we service these hurting people who have come out from among them, my people. Now, you set up organizations like this. One of my priestess friends decided to do something in the community of Gary, Indiana. She set up classes and workshops and seminars for these hurting people, the Oracles of Life Spiritual Learning Center. And that is also a center that's online where you can go to her and get the help you need when you're exiting out of these non-spiritual practices. Now, here's one that really caught my eye, Barbara Brenton Products. Barbara Brenton is a healer. Now, African Americans, we are natural healers. Barbara is making a pretty good mint every year with a 4-year program with people coming to her university to get training and to become an energy healer. When a lot of us, we are doing Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. I'm a Reiki 1 healer, and a number of us being a Reiki 1 or 2, we are healers, and we can set up our shingle in our schools where we can teach and train how to become a healer. So looking at Oracle Divination Network, we are a school as well. My brother used to reside with us on radio, and we have been talking how to healing. He's into herbs and tinctures and fusion. Right before he draw any conclusion about him drawing up these fusion, he's only healing alien folks. And literally, our show was about practices for our prayer segment, as well as pouring libation. And the only component that we did not have added in there was a component of healing and teaching people how to heal. He is an energy healer. I'm an energy healer. And we don't need a modality to we heal through energy and frequency. So therefore, you don't have to bring him a modality for him to work through. And those are the true healers, learning how to heal from a frequency and a vibration, setting the vibrational tone. So I implore you to look at how can you set up your healing school. If you think you got what it takes, you've been through Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, and now you want to go through raindrop therapy, that's another form of the patient without touching them through raindrop therapy, essential oils. So we have a show called the Spreaker Show. And on the Spreaker Show is only the organic broadcasters. We talk about healing modalities. And that is the show that we try to concentrate on healing. We've gotten a little off course, but we're going to get back on there. And our Oracle Divination Network is truly a network of over 10 years of interviews that you can go out and listen to. Go out and become one of my followers. Go and download the actual interviews, and you'll see we've interviewed people from frequency healers to cancer healers, just about anything you think of for healers. And we have prided ourselves for 10 years on doing shows that are conducive for the family. And right now, we are recording for Blog Talk, and Blog Talk is this is this will be my 10th year and being on the show. and we are an Oracle Divination Network. We like to speak on their natural healing. Would like to speak on their ability to be, I guess you would call it, someone who has the ability to, it's a person that has clairvoyant ability, that can see into the lives of others, and a person that has frequencies that are high, that they can vibrate at a high frequency, that they can heal people, or they have the ability to see into the lives of their loved ones, a lot, and be able to tell them what's up ahead. So we are that type of organization. We're paranormal. We make no apologies for being paranormal. Most of the black people are paranormal, and it's not to say that we are witches. No, we're not, and we are definitely not a practice of someone that are warlocks. And we certainly don't want people making the mistake to think that this is not our stuff. This is our stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We have been a part of this in New Orleans and the South, and most of our ancestors were part of the magic, and we are intending to teach the information about the magic, because you're going to need the magic, because you're in a war. You're in a terrible war, and people are putting you into these organizations where you're being held captive, and religion is the most worst thing on the scene. All of the liquor stores that they put on every corner, and religion. It is to sedate you. It is to lull you to non-communicating, so you don't know what's going on. So you've got to understand that you've been called to become a priest and priestess. You are a healer, and you ought to be healing your family. And stop sending your people out to these places to get second-class treatment when you have the ability to heal and bring about a cure. So we're going to be talking more about the healers out there, bringing them forward to let people know who you are, and then letting you register. People say, oh, well, how many registered healers do you have? And we can give them the list. And if your name is on that list, then so be it. But all of you have the capabilities of healing your loved ones. Start healing with your children and your loved ones, and start the practice of keeping up with your various different fusions and tensions. And a lot of us are using essential oils now and sprays. These are things you can learn about. So put your head to the metal and begin to realize that your natural bone is small, and you don't have to go to anyone's school. A lot of us waste a lot of time going to theological schools to only find out that all that we need to know is within our being. And we don't need to put our time into wasting money in these theological institutions, because they're not for us. And we have to learn to be spiritual and set up our own set of spiritual doctrines and what we believe, and then pass them on to our family members, hang them on shingles on the wall, and begin to do the due process of putting on institute called church in your home. And start with it in your heart, first of all. Meditate. Spend some time meditating. And stop talking and praying so much, and listen to God speak to you in the quietness of your meditation. And then you will find God. I want to thank you for being a part of our show. And we want to also tell you that this particular part of the two-part segment is over. And during this particular time, let me check to see if anybody called in. Our phone lines are open at 760-539-3247. You can call in on our Blog Talk station. And please do give us your input. If you have any suggestions, we'd like to hear from you. Stay tuned. those are in the house today. Andrea, Martha, Lorenzo, Naomi, Barbara Ann, Rodriguez, Elise, Lorenzo, Jerry, James Robinson, Akeem, Jennifer, Clifford, Lee, Dan, Minister, Connor, Wendy, Samantha, Johnson, John, Bedford, Frank, Austin, Michael, Calbria, Frank, Kevin, Winston, Jeffrey, Diane, Easter, Israel, and Ataki. Thank you so much for joining us. And you're in the room with your Omi Inca live here on Oracle Divination Network. We are a paranormal organization. Go out and become a follower of Oracle Divination Network is the name of our show. And we've celebrated our 10th year this year. We've been on the air for 10 years. We produce paranormal shows. We are a spiritualist show. We talk about all the spiritualist activity, such as we talk about voodoo, we talk about icon, and Ifa. I am a part of the Ifa following of the Yoruba group. It is my family. It's a way of life. It is not a religion. If any of you would like to know more about it and how you can lock up with the Kemetic teaching, we have interviews with Kemetic teaching, with Ifa. I've been studying up under the Asara set. That was the first group I ever studied under the African path. And it gives you an African path about your heritage, your history, also how to do readings. So it teaches you a lot about your ancestral worshiping and how you are to set up your altar. So we're into those kind of things, and we should be because we're Africans. And at the end of the day, the question is to be or not to be African. And I chose to be African. Now, we can be a whole lot of indigenous people, and we can be black Jews, we can be all those things, but I chose to be African. And it's very important for us to be able to identify with Africa and understand where our teachings came from. So in order to inform you that I don't have a religion, I do not aspire to a traditional religion, but my way of life and faith is Ifa, which falls under the Yoruba teaching, and Kemetic teaching as well. Kemetic and Yoruba are about the same. They just have different names of their orishas. And we're not going to get into all of the lifestyle of the orishas and the lifestyles of Ifa, but we're going to change our gears now. I think we've said enough and given enough guidance for those lost sheep who are coming up out of the Jehovah Witness faith. And a lot of them have to go out and field service, and they have to put time in the field. And they are also brought up in front of the congregation to talk about whether or not they met their quota. Some of them are bullied and beaten down. This is a horrible way to function in an establishment. When you're an adult, now you're being treated like a child. These people go through a lot of bullying, a lot of stress, and yet they stay in these organizations, and they take about all they can take, and then they want to leave. So go out to your loved ones and let them know you want to minister to them, and don't accuse them and don't make them feel bad, but help them because they are truly victims who've been victimized by a society called the Watchtower and the Jehovah Witness organization. And a lot of them, they get called on a lot of things, and if their family members are not up to par and they're not on the baptism list, they can't even associate with their family members. They can't go to the bar mitzvahs, the birthday parties, and the weddings with their family. They can't even communicate with them. If they are caught communicating, a lot of them are chastised, and they could be also discommunicated too. So let's not put a lot of pressure on them. Let's try to see from a perspective that we are coming in to help bring them out, because some of them need to be saved and some of them need to be rescued. So don't put the pressure on them because they are under suicidal watch. Trust me, people, it's on the internet that some of the Jehovah Witnesses in certain geographical area are on a suicide watch, meaning that at any time they can commit suicide. And we don't want that. We want to save these people. And these are our people. Many of these are black people that are committing the suicide. And it's very sad, and most of us don't even know what's going on. We just snicker about the witnesses and go on and say we're glad that we're not one. But I want to switch the gears now and go back to solutions. Solutions. Here's a number one solution for black people. And I was one of the presidents of the Near North Indiana chapter, and it is called Project 2019. Only black Americans can save black Americans. Knowledge is power, and education and knowledge is the gateway that will lead to solutions to all problems that affect black Americans. Now, I used to think that education was the only key, but it's not the only key. It's one of the keys. And I had to beg the pardon of Charles Sanford to let him know that you can get all the education in the world you want, but sometimes you can still end up going down the drain. Knowledge is power, but you have to know how to apply wisdom to that. So what he is speaking about is his philosophy for the year of 2019, which is upon us now. And this year of 2019, things are supposed to happen. He predicted, or he wanted to see how many African Americans were going to be enrolled in a higher level institution, getting their bachelor's of science or bachelor's of art or master's degree or PhD degree. How many of those people were African Americans that were getting these credentials? Because things would be much better for them if they were. As you know, a lot of us are coming out of college with all these higher level degrees and have no jobs to go to, and high Stafford loan, direct loans to pay back, and no jobs to go to. We know that here's where they threw the monkey wrench in. They gave us all these high interest rate loans and told us, that you can pay it back after you're out of school, and now your 6 months are up and you still don't have a job. Now you got to pay these loans back. Now, Project 2019 has gone into the community and partnered with churches, non-for-profit organizations, and their mission statement is, let me read you what the mission statement is. The mission statement is, the rationale for Project 2019 is the irrefutable truth that black Americans will never attain social and economic equality in America until black reach educational parity in America. The goal of Project 2019, a major goal of Project 2019, is to increase the levels of formal education attained by black Americans to the same level obtained by the rest of America educational parity. How Project 2019 will be measured. Project 2019 measurements of education parity is based on college degree earned. Accordingly, educational parity will be reached when the percentage of Black Americans earning college degrees is equal to the presence of the rest of America who earn college degrees. Project 2019 completion date. Project 2019 is to be completed by the year of 2019, the 400th anniversary of beginning of slavery and what would become of the United States of America. So we're in the year of 2019. Now here we are, wondering what is going to become of our Black people. And are they getting more degrees now? And when we measure the statistics, does the statistics show that there have been many more of us who have gotten degrees that are African descent? And if it does, what are we doing with these degrees? What are we doing with our education? How are we making changes for our Black communities? How are we doing that? Now, Chuck wrote a book, and let me also show you, because you might want to purchase the book. Okay. Chuck wrote a book, and the book is called Project 2019, Social and Economic Equality Through Formal Education. This book here runs for, what does she have? Now, we're selling it for $6. It was $10. Now, this book is available, and it will be available on our website if anyone wants a copy of it. It is explaining the disparity of educated Black people and is explaining what we need to do in order to better ourselves during the year 2019. And it's here now. And everyone is talking about reparations. And now I would like to go into this topic of reparations, which I indicated we were doing two segments, one for the Jehovah Witness and one for reparations. Now, if anybody in here that is not for reparation, I make no apologies to you whatsoever. I am a reparation advocate, and I believe in reparation, and I do think we're going to be getting it soon, because there are many court cases in court talking about it. Now, I read this once before, and some of you asked me to bring it back again, and it's an old, tattered report that I have, if you can see it there. It's a history of reparation payments. Can you see that there? Who got paid reparation? Who got paid? All right. Who got diabetes? All right. The U.S., okay? The Japanese got paid. I'm not even going to get into the amount. The Japanese got paid, and that was 1990. In 1990 again, Australia Jewish Claims Conference on Australia, they got paid. In 1988, Canadians got paid. The Indians and the Eskimos in Canada got paid. 1986, the U.S. paid the Ottawas of Michigan. In 1985, the U.S. paid the Chippewas of Wisconsin. 1985, the U.S. paid the Seminoles Indians of Florida. That is my tribe. Seminole Indians is our family tribe. 1985, the Sioux of South Dakota was paid. 1980, the Kalmyks of Oregon got paid. I guess that's Oregon. Okay. I can barely read this. 1971, the U.S. paid Alaskan Native land settlement. And in 1952, the Germans got paid, the German Jews, the settlement. This probably was Ashkenazians. I'm not certain. But I wanted to read that to you to let you know that somebody has gotten reparation. And during the Emancipation Proclamation, when they freed the slaves, the white man who owned slaves and who had businesses, they were also given reparation. And the Scottish people that came over as immigrants were given our reparation when we had those Jim Crow laws come out and our ancestors were cropping the land, and all of the reparation that was supposed to be given to those sharecroppers was given to the Scottish white folks that came over as immigrants. So somebody has gotten paid on reparation. It is not a myth. It is not a fallacy. It has actually happened. So once happening once, it could happen again. And the question is, are we going to be ready for this occasion? Are we going to be ready to take up the mantle? And are we going to be ready to take our position? And a lot of times black folks are found not ready. We're always out of commission. So let's go to station. Roll call. These are in the house. Patrick, Ted, Reverend Corey, Patrick, Kwame Law, Israel, Diane, Jeffrey, Winston, Kevin, Calabria, Frank, Walter, John, Bedford, Reverend Maya, Johnson, Samantha, We're back here on Blog Talk. Thank you so much, Blog Talk, for being with us today. And for those of you who are out there listening by way of Blog Talk, thank you very much. Our phone lines are open at 760-539-3247. You can call in at any time, and you can embrace the microphone. Call in and tell me what you want to say. You don't have to agree with everything that Omi says. If there's something that you would like to get out there to the listening audience, now is your time. We invite you to be a part of this discussion. We're now discussing reparation. You owe me, homie. I like singing that song because there's a young lady that comes out of the Nation of Islam, and I play her music continuously about reparation. So go out and listen to some of the shows that I did on reparation on Blog Talk, and you can find her CD there. Once again, we'd like to welcome you to the all-featured show, Blog Talk Featured Show on the Oracle Divination Network. We are a network, ladies and gentlemen, and we invite you to come in and to put your portfolio up if you are a priestess, if you are a priest, if you are a Babalaw, and Yanafai, and a Petty Bee. You can sign up with us and put your profile up on our page to let people know that you're a practitioner, that you are a healer, that you are a practitioner and being a coach or being a spiritual coach and helping people that need help. So you can register your profile, and we will let people know about your establishment. We have been around for 10 years now. We're not a Johnny-come-lately. We've been in the thick of things. We were there when Blog Talk had changes. We were there. And we are going to be here for a while, and we're going to be an educational institute that talk about paranormal things. Yes, there's a lot of paranormal things that are happening in the atmosphere, spiritually, morally, and physically. And we intend to help you to know that you are the living Episcopal. You are the temple. You are the church. Quit looking for a congregation. You are the church. And we just finished that segment on talking about how you can build yourself up to be a living Episcopal and go into yourself with meditation and find God. So we'll save that and table that for another discussion. That is a whole discussion within itself. And we only touched upon spirituality today as a solution for our failing, falling brothers who are coming out of the Jehovah Witness organization by the droves. And we want to keep praying for them and hold them up in prayer. And we don't want to turn them away when they're looking for help. But we want to be assistant to them because they are fallen prey to a society that has placed a large portion of us in prison. They have been in prison, and they are now escaping and leaving. So that is all we're going to say about that. We did 2 days of talking about that topic, and let's go on to reparation. And if there's anybody out there that has an opinion about reparation and why they feel we should or should not get reparation, raise your hands now and raise them high. And if you want to say something about reparation, please do type something up on the screen. You can do that for us right now. We know that our religions are dogmas, and we got to get away from these dogmas and these man-made rituals, and we got to create some rituals of our own. So, go into these, and they're issues that you will always be debating, and we don't want to fall off into that. So I'm not teaching people to run and embrace church. I'm teaching them to embrace their spiritual brothers and sisters who have made their transition, called their ancestors. Embrace your ancestors. They're the ones that love you, and they will come in and pick you up and make you strong. So you must know your ancestors are the ones who will assist you and aid you. So you must know who they are. Let's see if we have some other people come in. Hello, James. I don't know if I saw you waving there. Let me see who else is down here that I didn't see. May not call your name. Patrick, how are you? Ted Bennett, Reverend Pro Abim, how are you? Agwami Wahang Israel, how are you? Some of these names I know I'm butchering up. Diane Hunty Easter, Jeffrey Jones, Winston Prince, Kevin Henderson, let's see, Calabrina, how are you? And Frank Austin. I think I got everybody. Or did I say everybody's name? Reverend Myron Johnson, Samantha, Wendy Moore, Temporary Minister Bonner. Hit the wrong button here. Van Yasin Yucker, Denise Jones, Malik Lorenzo, Clifford White, Jennifer Smith, Rashid Bernard, James Robinson, Jerry Simpson, Rodriguez Odom, Saint, Barbara Ann Bluford, Andre Blair, Bon Fombi, and Andre Larson. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Saturday. Happy Saturday to everyone. And everybody, night. I said, everybody, 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 everybody loves a Saturday night. I said, everybody, 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 everybody loves a night. How about it? Love a Saturday night? Oh, it's Saturday, so you can take your wigs off and you can relax and get in your recliner chair and just lay back in the cut, because we are discussing reparation in here for the moment. And if any of you have anything to say on the Blog Talk station and you would like to give your 2 cents and say something about reparation, our phone line is open at 760-539-3247. Now, I did that little jingle because you guys are not hearing the music. Only people are hearing the music and station identification is Blog Talk. And I used to be able to have it so it could be heard on my Facebook channel, but it's a little difficult because I have my earphones on now. And we're going to work this thing out. Hold tight. I'm jamming to it. I'll give you one to you. We have a full house this evening. Tell a friend, invite a loved one, anybody that is out of this horrible culture practices of religion. If you know somebody that's caught up in religion and looking to get free, they can come in here to the Blog Talk channel or for Divination Network. We're here to see you and to teach you about the law and understanding your ancestors, and sitting with yourself and meditating on yourself. The good news is there is no heaven or hell below us. We must internalize that all of our ancestors that have made that transition, they are within us. Come one with us, and they fight for us. And they're the ones that we should be calling on, because they will pick us up and they will make us strong and they will intervene with the juju and they will bring the Cosmic records forward to show you that you've been a God all this time, and the God inside of you, and all you need to do is press or read forward. He is your God. He is your guiding light. He is the one that you are to cohabitate with and sit and talk to. Meditation, make meditation a part of your rituals on a day. Your altar with sage to cleanse it of all of those filthy lucre or things that have been deploying you. If you made it out of the Jehovah Witness, you made it out of Christianity, if you've walked and you stand intact and you're able to stand up, then don't forget about those who are left there. After you have been strengthened, you go and strengthen your brother and sister. And understand that we're not looking for a religion, that we are God. We are pressing the Godhead. We are the living, the temple We don't need to look for any brick and mortar building, and we don't need to join any membership. Join alliances with God on the inside of you. Make you and God posses, and you and God run together. Now, I think I've said more than those out there. If you don't believe me, try me and see that God will provide for you, because you are God and you're going to provide for yourself. He lives within inside of you now, and signs and wonders follow you as you walk out the path of a godly man and woman. Signs and wonders shall follow you, and you shall do greater things than Jesus did. And I mean using magic, because we're going to talk about the magic and why it's necessary. Now, in this segment, we're talking about the magic and why we're in operation. Do you know that Nina Simone was a high priestess, and she practiced her art and her skill? Whenever she got on the stage in a country where she knew there was racism and that they hated her guts, she put them under a spell. She did a figure 8 to make sure that they all were going to be mesmerized by her entertainment and her performance. And she held them captive in the palm of her hand, and they could not move, and they hurled her to be the greatest performer. She priestess. Telling you, you can become a high priestess too. That is your next move. If you're an evangelist, coming out of evangelist, if you are a Jehovah Witness and you're an elder coming out and you have a high standard, you become a priestess. Learn all about how to become a practitioner so that you can use these skills with your family and loved ones, not so you can go out and cast spells on anyone. You're going to need your magic. You're going to need that magic wand, because that magic wand are words to cast a spell. And that magic are words that are powerful, more powerful than a two-edged sword. They cut going in and cut going out. Why do we need magic if we're going to work on getting our reparation? We're going to have to change the minds of men in high places. We are going to have to learn to not to be carnal-minded like the men and women that sit in high places. And when we're spiritual and know all spiritual things, we have all knowledge, and nothing slips up on us because the Spirit won't allow it to. The Spirit will bring us all things, and all things will come. So using a little bit of magic on the situation to help them to press these individuals who are carnal-minded individuals to do the right thing, to release certain emotions, to read certain interrogatories, to make regulations known that all black men and women are entitled to slavery, are entitled to reparation, who have been enslaved. Now, all of this stupid stuff about going out calling yourself no, internalize that rotten title. We don't want anything else to do with slavery. We are sons and daughters of kings and of queens, and we are not a part of some slavery ring. Be careful that they don't put you back into tyranny, because a lot of people that are African Americans are just getting out of slavery in the 21st century. It's documented. You can read about it. They didn't even know slavery was over because they couldn't read, and they stayed in indentured servantry, and they were involved in peony. They're just walking in a 20. If you don't believe it, go out there and Google peony, and you will see. There's some souls who didn't even know the slavery was over. And it isn't over. For all intents and purposes, it's been called by another name. Except when you're indubitably convicted of a felon, a crime, then you can be put back into slavery. And look at how many of our brothers and sisters have been convicted of a crime, and some who haven't, and they still have been put back in slavery. And that was what they put on their laws of the 15th Amendment, that slavery was over in 1865. But yet, they put that clause in there, except when you're indubitably convicted of a crime that's a felony, you can be put back into slavery. And that is what's going on in our country today. People are being put back into slavery, not just human trafficking for their organs, but being put back into these tiny cells and being marketed to various corporations to make money. So we let go because people are making money off of our indentured servitude in prison. They're making money off of our pressing license plates for low fees in prison. They have beds there. It's a business. They don't want to let anybody go free because this is a business, and they are doing this by any means necessary, putting someone in those prisons to make up for this business operation. So we got a real problem. We're going to have to hang on, and we're going to have a bit of magic. It's going to, and we're going to have to be able to turn to our juju, and do not complain about it, and do not speak ill of it, because it's something that's going to save our life. It's something that's going to rescue us. And for those who have been caught up for so long under looking at voodoo and the titles, fetish, and high John the Conqueror, it's what your ancestors created. It's what your ancestors used. And it is the products that successfully freed them, like when they were fighting in Haiti. You had John Jacques Dessalines, Bookman Dadi, and you had many other Haitians that fought and went down to the graveyard to get their ancestors. Come on, you're going on, because we're going to fight this army with the powerful words of our ancestors. They're like firing darts. And they didn't have ammunition, but they had the powerful words of their ancestors, fighting words. So we got to understand, we got to lay down our carnal-minded weapons. That is not how we roll ammunition and guns. We're powerful. We're able to leave these bodies. We're able to transcend through telecommunications, where we are able to send messages. So you know, if we can send messages, we can send fiery darts, and we don't need the ammunition that they have been using and accustomed to using with fiery darts. And we got to get into this position, else we'll never be able to fight a war and be successful. That war is being fought on the inline for trafficking human bodies right now, trafficking human organs. And now we are worried about how we're going to fight them without ammunition. We have ammunition. You just don't see those particular non-carnal minded things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking more about spiritual things, and you're going to have to get in the spirit to see it. You're going to have to, first of all, connect yourself to some priest or priestess and get up under their supervision, because you're going to need protection. And you can't churches and traditional religion. You're going to have to become spiritual to find it. And just as I sit here and tell you that we are at war, and war is coming up on us with the Civil War, and we're going to have to know how to protect ourselves. And some of us will be taken out, because we'll never believe the spiritual things of our ancestors. Some of us can never wrap our hands around spiritual. Some of us don't want nothing to do with juju, and no, they don't want the voodoo. But you're going to have to change your mind. These are your ancestral gifts, and the Cosmic records, they have been laying there for you whenever you wake up. Some of you are awake now, but some of you are still yet lulled asleep. So come out from up under your nest and be prepared, because the next time I speak to you, it'll be about war. And how do you war in this society that deals with carnal-minded weapons? Your weapons are not carnal, through the pulling down of strongholds. And I tell you, you've got to get that in your mind, because it is not many African Americans praying each other, killing each other. The statistics backs me up on this, and it tells you that there were more policemen killing male black men than any number of black-on-black crime. We have a real serious problem here, and we're going to have to wake up, and we're going to have to put our heads to the ground and call on the ancestors, Eli, because they are the ones that will intervene on our behalf, and they will help us. Hold tight. Petty and Yanify, you can sign up with us and put your profile up for free and let someone know that you're in the area and that you're a practitioner and that you're a healer. We'll be glad to file your profile away to let someone know that you have been registered with us. We've been around for 10 years. I am a bona fide priestess up under the Yoruba teaching, and I was indoctrinated by Chief Natahochi. He initiated me. So if you want to know how long and where I was initiated in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And most of those followers there are my sisters and brothers as we were initiated together in the priesthood. And also we have had a house there in Wisconsin. I told you you're going to have to get of this thing called reparation and get informed about what is going on. Don't wait for me to give you all of the history. Do your due diligence and go out and research. And even if I told you something, go behind my words and research them, because it's important for you to know for yourself what's going on with this war. And we are in a war, people. We're in a war. And this war is not being fought with carnal weapons. We as African Americans cannot get up and muster up enough weapons to fight anyone. So we must be mindful that we have an arsenal that come out of our pharmaceutical kitchen of all of our needs for fiery darts and words to use against those enemies who might try. So for those of you who are interested in becoming followers, if you'd like to bring your show onto my radio station, Malik, if you're interested in talking about your classical music and would like a platform to speak on, please do email me. I put that email on you and let me know what the time look like, and we will be happy to allow you to come on the platform to talk about your classical music, which I'm very interested in because it will be very beneficial in being backup music. And I don't know if you're doing backup music for people, but we ought to get into some classical music, something that can that music. And Malik, Lorenzo, keep putting it out there to the people, because we are classical or orchestrated people who are in the classical line of music. And I am not surprised that you produce that kind of music. Keep it up, my brother. And I say, thank you and your work. Once again, I'd like to say thank you so much for our listening audience. You've been great to support me. Didn't write very much out there today. I hope next year, or next week rather, you'll write more. I won't be back on next year. It'll be next week. But hopefully you'll be able to write more information. And I want you to understand that we are one, and we must come into oneness and to a consciousness and stop fighting each other. And remember, the church is where? It's within you. There is no temple or no institute that you can go and join in spite of. Now join hands with each other as we say together, we are the Spreaker, that we are individual gods, and we have OE sitting on our head that we can confer with OE at any time, and that is the only God that we need, the God that exists inside of us, and that is OE, who we cooperatively work together with on one accord. And let's not forget that. Get ready to get out of here. We'll see you on Sunday. We'll be back again on Sunday. So please do join us on Sunday for another segment of reparation and how do we put this army together so we can go after our reparation. All double and baba booey to you, y'all. Have a nice evening.
All double and double and Baba Booey to you, y'all. Have a great evening, and we will see you on tomorrow. Good evening.